All right. Week one in Intro to JavaScript. One of the things I probably could have talked about during the week zero, but I'm going to leave it for here or have it here, is really the idea of what kind of JavaScript are we writing. So JavaScript, right? There's a saying in JavaScript is eating the world, in the sense that JavaScript is so many places beyond just the browser, which is the most common place it is. Like 99% of all websites utilize JavaScript. And here's where I'm introducing this on the client side. So when we talk about the client side, we're talking about what happens on the person using the internet, the client side, their browser. So we are going to be writing client side JavaScript. Now there is server-side JavaScript, okay? And that's where during Andrew Mead's section 2 where he talks about installing Node, and I've shown you ways that you don't have to do that, that you can do the work without installing Node. That Node is the server side. Okay. So and here's what's nice about once you learn client side JavaScript, then it's not a huge leap, not even a big leap in the sense that the syntax is the same. The code itself, how it's written, how it runs, understanding just the basic language on the client side, which you will get from this class pretty easily translated to the server side, which is why it's become more and more popular. But on the server side, there are obviously not obviously there are many more options for developers, coders, software engineers to use besides Node, and they do. Right? So Node is definitely not as popular on the server side as it is on the client side. Okay, but so what you're learning in this case is how first just the language itself, right? And that's what we'll do in section 3. And then we learn the browser specific, how to both, create web pages, what the DOM is, what the document object model is, how to modify the DOM, how to interact with the users, how to respond to events, right? So there's some really helpful things to learn, but at its core, we're learning a language. Okay. Now, as you learn a language, now, if this is your first language, I can just tell you that, and even if it's not, even if you've taken other language classes, that anytime you learn a language, right, there is things that can come up because this is not the way we code, the way we write code, right? And there's actually levels. Like we talk about some programming languages are more abstract, which means they're more close to what we think of as English, right? And then there's more low level languages which talk to the machines. And JavaScript is a little higher level, which is great because it makes it fairly readable, I would say. But again, part of that is like anything, the more you do it, the more you read JavaScript, the more you look at somebody else's code, the better you can read it, the more likely you can write it. But the other part of this, and this is why I really want to talk about this here, is that I really want you to understand that as we move into your first code along assignment, which is Thursday night. Now, this is Monday night. You reply. My hope is that students reply on Monday so they get here's what you need to think about for this week. And this is the first week of the semester. Again, recorded before the start of the semester, but it doesn't matter. Is that the idea of the way I've selected and why I used the Udemy course for JavaScript? And by the way, I used a Udemy course for my Python as well for similar reasons. Is that what you're doing is you're learning by watching and coding along, and then there's going to be places in there that there's going to be challenges. Now, I'm going to actually go over specifics of how I want you to code those and how to show your work, right, with those. I will do that in a short video for the first code along assignment. But I just want you to know the importance of this is that when you're approached with a challenge, it really can bring up various feelings, emotional feelings, like, right? And how long you're willing to allow yourself to set in the unknown or in the struggle is a really important task. It's like, I mean, I know this analogy has been worn many times, at least in my area it has. It's like it's the idea of weightlifting or working out. Like if I don't challenge myself, I don't grow, but I need to allow myself that time to be challenged. And when you're challenged, it's when you build your muscle. And if you just skip over and go right to the solution, because I will tell you the specific thing I want you to do, which is to not look at the solution until you commit your code, because I want to see how well you're translating the code alongs, right, through the challenges. And then starting next week, you'll have your first, in addition to a colong, you'll have your first learn together where I take what we've learned and I give us another challenge like concept, or to say, write some code. Because I know in the world that we live with, and if you don't know of Stack Overflow, you will most likely learn it, because most of the things that you search for, maybe around JavaScript coding, any kind of languages, you'll see something from Stack Overflow where people have asked questions and people with more experience have answered them, which is good. Nothing wrong with looking at Stack Overflow, but in this case, you really want to attempt this on your own. Okay. And if you get to the point where you're like, I just can't do it, then okay, look at the solution, right? But put that in the notes that you did. And here's the other thing, and this is the last thing I'll kind of, as we transition, just to move on with the content. But here's how you know if watching the solution you really learned something is wait 24 hours, right? And attempt that challenge on your own again after having looked at a solution. Attempt it on your own to see if you could actually code that challenge, because that will really tell you if by watching it you were learning it, right? These are just techniques that I'm trying to give you, because what I want you to do is be able to do this weekly work to work towards these dev projects, right? So dev, your first one's at 6 weeks, your second one's at 12 week, and your last one's at week 17, because that's the process that you're really here to learn, which is how to take your concepts, right, and create code that accomplishes something that you want to see done through code. So for me, this has been something I've actually, for the last, I guess, about year, I've been through these projects developing some code to track my, maybe I'll show you this next week, kind of the progression of the three devs. But I chose to do something to track the cost of charging my EV, because this is now part of my life. And I think it's good to choose things that are in your life when you think about coding challenges or things you want to write code to accomplish a specific task. Okay. So I just wanted to give you that as we move in. And we'll talk about some of this as we move in. Getting help, right? I mean, that's the thing I would tell you, is that reaching out to Discord is a great thing. And I know there's been a real hesitation on some students who are new to coding to reach out for help because they feel like they don't have enough knowledge to ask. And what I would tell you is, by thinking about and attempting to write your, or not attempting, but writing questions help you actually deepen your knowledge. So please don't hesitate to do that. The other thing is, come see me. My office hours are listed in the syllabus, and I'm really there for you and I to have a conversation with, so you can get to know me, so you can get to know, hopefully feel more comfortable with me. That way, when you get to your dev projects where you come in for code reviews with me, you feel more comfortable, because that can be sometimes also a place that can really trigger some anxiety for students, because my class, unlike probably most classes you've taken, actually require you to come in and both first write code, hopefully that works, right? You get the most points for that, and then be able to talk to me about what that code is doing. And then we have a conversation with the hope that it deepens your experience, your skill base, and all of those things. I've been doing code reviews for about 3 years, and every semester I've had many students tell me that they were the most beneficial thing in this class, and I am always happy to hear that. So do know that the way this class is layered, right, with the code alongs, the learn togethers, which are basically just the challenges, right, another challenge that I've come up with, and then the devs are really layered to help you be able to take concepts that you've come up with and write code to accomplish that. All right. Hopefully that gives you some, you know, understanding of my approach and why I approach it this week. So what you need to do here is just hit a reply, and in your reply, right? Do you understand what I mean by the connection between the code challenges and the dev work? Do you have any questions about that? Is there anything else I've covered that you want to ask me about? Right? And is there something, maybe, and that's also something you could reply here, is there something you've thought about that you might want to write code to accomplish? Okay, that's always interesting as well. So this is due Monday, right? And then the first item you have due this week is your first code along. So hopefully you've gotten the course already. Again, the reason, hopefully many of you got it cheap because you got in, created your accounts. But today is really, in a sense, the first day you absolutely, meaning this week, which will be Thursday, will be the first time you need that Udemy course in order to complete that work. Okay, so the next thing you do once you hit reply is you could actually go check out the next item, which is your first actual work item for this class. Glad you're here. Thanks. And I hope this helps clarify any questions you may have. If not, ask me. Have a great one.